Without further ado, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there on the World Wide Web. Welcome to another episode of the West Coast Jazz Hour. Last week we did a fun tribute to Henry Mancini, but today we have a very special guest again. This man is one of the greatest musicians from the United States, I actually would say. He's a band leader, composer, arranger, piano player, Grammy Award winning and Grammy nominated as well. This man has made so much great music across all different kinds of genres and has played with Buddy Rich, the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra, Doc Severinson. The list is very long of people who this man has worked with. So today we're welcoming Bill Cunliffe to the show. Thank you, Bill. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Josh. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Great.
good. And
Thanks.
of course, Josh, our esteemed co-host and partner in crime, is here as well. How you doing?
Good. I'm good, Kevin. And Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Looking forward to this with you.
Oh, me too.
Yes.
So, Bill, let's start it off right away. The first question that we always ask to our guests is, when did you move to Los Angeles, and why did you move to LA at the time? Because you're not from here. I forgot for a minute where you're actually from. Oh, from Boston. Yes. Okay. So how did that journey start for you out here?
Well, it's complicated. After graduating from the Eastman School, I was looking for kind of a college teaching gig in a pretty big city. And the two that came up were both in Southern Ohio. So I took the one that paid the most, and it was Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. And Wilberforce is 20 minutes outside Dayton, an hour outside Cincinnati, and an hour outside Columbus. So there was a lot of playing, and I played all the time with really good players. One of them being Dave Carpenter, the bass player.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Dave one time there was a club there called Gillies. That was a really, really great jazz club. And I saw Tim Higgins there. I saw Red Rodney and Ira Sullivan there. I saw Ray Brown there. I saw the Yellow Jackets there. I mean, I saw everybody. And of course, when I saw the Yellow Jackets, I went up to Russ Ferrante, and he was the nicest. He's exactly as he is today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I was working at the time on playing a thing from his first album called Imperial Strut, which is sort of a gospel-y. I can't really play it now, but I can at least. And it comes right out of that black gospel thing.
Love it.
That I love because I was teaching at a historically black university, and I would play with the gospel choir and everything, and the kids were like, "Oh, Mr. Cunliffe, are you into that?" And they would show me that, and I would flip out. And so, anyways, it was a pretty rich musical environment. I really enjoyed it, and I met Dave, and he told me one time that the job was open with the Buddy Rich band, and I was 26, 27 years old. I had a full-time tenure-track job at a university, had a car, had an apartment. I thought for about one day, and I said, I'm gone. I got rid of everything, and I went out with Buddy, and my chairman was a percussionist, Willie Amoaku, and he had played with Dizzy Gillespie for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, Bill, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 1 week. If it doesn't work out with Buddy, you can have your old job back. Wow. Sometimes the water's just open. It's like Exodus, right? And so that's how it happened. And I ended up working with Buddy for about a year and a half, writing a lot of music form, and spending a lot of time in New York. And so when it came time for me to get off the band, it's a difficult life. It doesn't pay that well, and it's buses all the time and all of that. I mean, it was great. I'm so glad I did it, but after a year and a half, you really do feel like you have to leave. So it was New York, LA, but I had a girlfriend in Cincinnati, and I had a bunch of people promising me a bunch of work there. So I said, well, I don't know, maybe it was a mistake. I don't know. You can't really go back, but I'm one of the, Sinatra said, regrets, I've had a few, too few to mention. I don't really feel that way. I feel like I regret a lot of things, but you know what? Being wise, it would be good for me to say, yeah, but the road not taken, you never know. So I moved back to Cincinnati and immediately got into writing music for daytime TV. Because it's those things back in the day, daytime dramas were called soap opera music because they were all done by the Procter & Gamble company in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the headquarters of all of that. So I did that for about 2 years, but the real silver lining there was I was the pianist of a house trio at this club called the Greenwich in Cincinnati.
Right.
And the people I worked with there, it was amazing. Art Blakey, Freddie Hubbard, Sonny Fortune, Bobby Watson, Woody Shaw, Hank Crawford, Fathead Newman, Art Farmer, Bob Mincer, Bob Berg. It went on and on.
Oh, man.
On and on and on. And Joe Henderson, Junior Cook. That was amazing. And that went on for about 2 years. That was another great gig. But then it ended. I broke up with my girlfriend. I applied for a job at the Cincinnati Conservatory and didn't get it. I think they knew I wasn't going to stay. They're lovely people. I'm good friends with people there. It's a great, great school. But again, the paths, I had to leave. So at the time, I thought I might want to get into film scoring. So that's how I ended up in LA. But I did a few things here, a few little films. One of them called On the Shoulders of Giants, which is Jabbar's documentary about the Harlem Wrens, a black basketball team, barnstorming team. But I do remember the day that I decided never to go into studio music. And it was very often what they would do back in the day, this is like 25 years ago. They'd have a piano player play an acoustic piano, and they'd have another guy who did all the technical stuff. And back then, like 91, 92, it all had to happen live. So the guy would have a bank of synthesizers about 8 feet high, and all this stuff would be triggered by SMPTE code that was fed by the engineer, and it would have to trigger and go down as the musicians were playing, because the drum tracks and everything, you couldn't, for some reason, it couldn't go down first. You know, that happened later, where you put all this stuff down first and then you could play over the top of it. This was in the new aspects of this technology. So the guy who's a great keyboard player ended up being a composer and arranger of films in his own right. I won't mention his name, but they were like, well, we're sending you SMPTE, and the SMPTE wasn't getting through to his rack, so none of the sounds were playing. And there were 30, 35 people waiting, violin players, bassoon, cello, brass play. We were all waiting, and nothing was happening. They were like, well, there's something wrong with your rig. And so he gets down on his hands and knees, and he's unplugging and plugging in things and debugging and no, I don't hear that. And I said to myself, oh no, I'm a jazz player. I mean, I think I knew that all along.
Right.
I knew it all along, but I think when you come to LA, there's a bit of that who should I be studio? And because especially 32 years ago, there were a lot of great players who did that exclusively. The music business has changed. It's really not quite like that now. But I was thinking, oh, I'll just dabble in the studio and then I'll play jazz on the side. And a lot of guys did that historically. You know, Mel Lewis when he was here, Shelley Mann,
Yep.
Mike Wofford, Harold Land, Plas Johnson, Conti Condoli. A lot of the guys that I had met when I first came out here, that's exactly what they did. They would play studio during the day and play jazz gigs at night. Because I had already done a year and a half of road and going on the road full time and playing, I wasn't quite sure I wanted to do that. So, but I kind of realized shortly after this that no, I needed to pursue the artist path. And the artist path was teaching, playing with sidemen, with people you really love, and doing your own thing and creating and making your own music. So that's, you know, about 2-3 years after I moved to LA, I realized, yeah, that's about what I should do. And around this time, I get a call. This is about 91, I guess. I got a call from John Clayton. And he said, Bill, we have a little gig. And it was with the Clayton brothers, with Nikki Harris, this great singer, Gene Harris's daughter.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a really fun gig. And then John kind of called me a little while later and he said, Bill, and I don't know exactly how he said, I want to know, are you a jazz player or are you kind of want to do studio work? Which do you want to do? And I said, well, John, I'm a jazz player. I'm a jazz guy. So he said, good, because we have a slot in our big band and we'd like you to do it. And we have and in the small group. So I joined the Clayton brothers and the big band.
That's right.
I did that for 10 years. And honored, delighted, wouldn't change a thing. Really glad I did that. So that kind of got my start in LA as you know, in the jazz world, and I just kept that up. I just that was really what needed to be. So that's how I got to LA, and in the meantime, I had several hiatuses. One was relating to the fact that my family needed me back in Boston, so I moved back to New York, and I did about 2.5-3 years there in the late 90s, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But when the family thing actually was, both my parents passed away within a year and a half of each other. It was a tough time, and I really was like, well, I just moved back to LA. And then there was a second interval where Terrell Stafford, probably my favorite trumpet player,
Oh, yes.
asked me if I wanted to be a professor at Temple University in Philadelphia.
Oh, no kidding.
So I took that gig and I did that for 3 years, and it was wonderful. But somehow LA always pulled me back. I wasn't able to, I don't know. It's sometimes your intellect tells you something, your heart tells you something else, and I think I went with the heart.
Were you at Temple before Bruce Barth was there?
Bruce was there continuously.
Okay.
He, one of my favorite piano players.
Me too.
You know, he along with Josh, he's one of those guys, gosh, I wish I played like him.
No.
But then they go, yeah, we wish we played like you. So it's that artist conundrum, you know?
Yeah.
You hear stuff that's really great and you want it, but you're who you are too.
Right.
It's, boy, it's just, I don't have a good answer to that except spend time with what you do. And I think what you do will emerge if you spend enough time doing it. But no, Bruce was a part-time teacher of piano there the whole time. I directed one of the jazz ensembles and taught combos and taught classes.
Okay.
I had some piano students. Bruce had a number. A great piano player there, Tom Lawton. He had a bunch. Temple's a pretty big jazz studies department. It's really one of the best ones in the United States. People don't think of it the way they think about Manhattan and Juilliard and Eastman because it's in Philly. But Philly is an awesome place to study jazz. It's a hard bop town, and it's a town, you know, John Coltrane was from Philly. So many of the guys, John Coltrane, Benny Golson, Mickey Roker, I think Kenny Barron. I mean, there's so many guys that are from New York, especially the great black players that I really worshipped and studied growing up. And Coltrane would go to New York as a youngster, get his ass kicked, and he'd come back to Philly and work out everything with his guys and his bands back home.
That's right.
Get a few good meals from his mother. Hang out with Benny, and because Benny was maybe a year or two younger, I guess, I'm not sure. And then Benny, of course, moved to New York, and then his career took off. And so Philly is it's a place it's a very difficult place, but it's a very soulful place. There's a lot of great music there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a lot of friends who actually went through Temple University, and a couple of friends that are still living there actually in Philadelphia. So I didn't know that you taught there actually. So that's fun to know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's great schools there. Obviously, there's Curtis, which is one of the great classical music schools in the world, and the University of the Arts, which is a wonderful performing arts school in Philadelphia. And of course, it's what did someone say about? I don't know. There are a lot of stories about Temple, but it's in particular the African American reservoir, because it's a city that is, I think, about 50% black. So, that aura of what the music is about, especially hard bop. It's along with Detroit, the #1 hard bop city in America. And I think Pittsburgh comes in. I think some other ones do too, but I think it's still a hard bop town.
Right on. Right on. Yeah. And when how long ago was it that you became director of jazz studies at Fullerton?
Well, I moved back to LA in '07 largely because of the Fullerton job. And I was second in command, and then the director, Chuck Tomlinson, retired, and I took over. This is about 6-7 years ago. So I've been the director of jazz studies there for about 6-7 years.
Okay, yeah, and I hear always great stuff about the Fullerton Jazz School over there, and we actually had the opportunity to do some stuff together while I was at USC, because you were a guest conductor for the big band while I was there for a concert, which was super fun. That we also got to play some stuff of yours. So.
Well, USC is an amazing place. I mean, it's the level of the students and the faculty are just, it's an incredible school. I mean, there's nothing like it in the West Coast.
Yeah. I still feel very grateful that I was able to go there and actually meet you there also for the very first time. So that's super cool.
What did you study with? Did you get a bachelor's or a master's there, Kevin?
I got a master's there. Yeah.
So you got to study with Peter Erskine?
Yep. Yeah, I did my 2 years with Peter, and besides Peter, I did 2 semesters with Roy McCurdy, and then 1 semester with Ndugu, and a semester with Aaron too. So I had like the full gist of the percussion department. Yeah. That's
a wonderful 1-2 punch. Roy McCurdy. We've been doing Zoom sessions all year, and he was one of the people we had as a guest, and he was maybe one of my favorite of the guests because of all the stories he had about his history. And to get him, and then to get Peter, wow, that's like the yin and the yang. You're getting that's a great education.
Yeah. No, I can only say positive things to those 4 guys. I owe a lot to those 4 guys while I was in school, definitely. Yeah. So why don't we start off also with listening to some music? Josh, I see that you want to share something in computer sound, so I guess you want to play something.
Chomping at the bit. Yeah. I call dibs.
Yeah.
Bill, I mean, this is just great. There's too much to get to, so I don't want to, waste anyone's time, especially yours. You have an amazing catalog of music that, to me, covers such an incredible range of styles, not just your prowess of the jazz, general jazz genre at the piano, but your classical music, your orchestral music, just absolutely incredible. And you just inspire me so much. Even from the very first time I had a lesson with you. And this was the record I was checking out at the time because my teacher, Cecilia Coleman, who I studied with for many years at Long Beach State, said, "Oh, Cecilia is fantastic. I learned so much from her," but she said, "I want you to study with some more people." And the two people that she named were you and Putter Smith. And so I hung out with you guys just a little bit. But Putter Smith, the great bassist who actually was a guest on our show a little while ago.
Played with some people. He's got a lot of
Oh man, Putter's a joy. Yeah. Yeah. So this record, I hope you don't mind me going back into the the vault. 1998, Bill Plays Bud, which is just killing playing. I mean, and you were speaking about your friend and longtime partner in music, Dave Carpenter, and he's featured on this record. Sounds beautiful with the great Joe LaBarbera on drums, Ralph
Another
Moore.
part of the Philly sound. Bud Powell, Philly guy,
There it is.
hanging out with Thelonious Monk when the cops asked him to move on, and they didn't move on right away, and the cop bashed Bud in the head.
That's right.
Never the same.
Wow.
Although he had moments that he was just as good as ever,
Right.
but they were a little inconsistent. You know? So he was he had headaches and
Yeah.
just so many bad things happened to him, and it was really just awful.
Yeah. Well, this is a Philly connection as well with the music of Bud Powell, and it's a great record on Naxos. Came out in 1998, and if you don't mind, I'd love to play the Tempest Fugit track because you're just on fire on this. Okay. So if you're just joining us, thank you so much. This is the West Coast Jazz Hour featuring Bill Cunliffe, and we're going to listen to his take on Bud Powell's Tempest Fugit from Bill Plays Bud.
Mm.
That is so burning, man. I mean, I love this record. There's so many of yours I love, but I wanted to kind of start near the beginning for my experience with you. And before that, there was another one, actually maybe your first, the Paul Simon Songbook. Oh, you're muted, Bill.
Yeah, that was something I did for Discovery Records. I think that's actually the first thing I ever did. Really, that was kind of that record was a little more, I would say, stylistically not emblematic of what I do.
Right.
I was a little more like the producer.
Right.
And a little more, well, let's do, because I didn't really, although I bet now if I heard all that stuff, I could really play a jazz Paul Simon.
Right.
It's not entirely a jazz record.
No, it's not. Well, I guess
No.
that's what kind of attracted me to your musicianship and your world, because, and I would say has shaped mine in some ways, because you would explore these themes of different writers or composers and just get into it. And it was always you, even if it wasn't exactly maybe what you intended. And I've always just appreciated that about your sound and your vision for your albums. Yeah, I know what you mean. Stylistically, definitely a little different. That's why this one caught my ear so much. Well, Rare Connection too was an early one for me, that I could hear the horizon of your musical world stretching from straight ahead jazz to even some more modern stuff and everything kind of in between. And I was like, man, that's exactly who I want to like model my own career after. So. Yeah.
When I hear your music, I hear a lot of the, first of all, what I love about your playing besides, well, first of all, your sound, but,
thank you.
Which is the most important thing. But secondly, your lyricism, you're always about melody, and that's underrated,
Thanks.
So when you play, you're kind of amazing to me in that, even though, like the Life on Mars and things like that are not, I don't want to say modern or anything, but they're like singer-songwriter type, things, and they're in that genre. But then when you go back and play a thing like Reflections by Monk, you're just old school, but you're not old school in a dated way. You're old school in, this is a young person that is completely absorbed in and integrating the older sensibility. And I always thought of myself as being that person as well, because the first guy that got me involved in music that I heard that I really, really loved was Oscar Peterson. And I realized very shortly after I started to kind of get into Oscar that I had to find something else. And because I needed, first of all, I don't have the technique to do it, number one. Number two, what I enjoy about jazz is interaction. And the piano players that I ended up loving the most were interactive piano players. Herbie, and then the older generation, everyone that Miles Davis hired, essentially.
Yeah.
Everybody. So you go to the list from, Wynton Kelly, Red Garland, all the way up. That's the way to play jazz, because it allows you to play with others.
Exactly.
And, we were talking the other day in another Zoom class. I curse Zoom. I'm tired of it. I never want, but then I'm really grateful for it, because I was in a group and we were talking about Chick and Herbie, the two pillars of what modern jazz piano is about. Well, and McCoy being the third one. Without those three guys, and Keith, of course, but so already I'm contradicting myself. Let's just say Chick and Herbie. What is it about those two guys? And with Chick, we sort of decided that it was about a framework that he begins to bring to the gig. A harmonic framework, a melodic framework, a rhythmic framework that he brings, and you sort of should go into that to make music with Chick. You know, when you play a tune like the early things, Tone for Jones Bones, whatever, but
Beautiful.
the later things like Spanish Heart, like the things with Brecker, you know, so many. Well, first of all, what we said about Chick was he's done about 90 records, and none of them really have a flaw to them. None of them. None of them. I mean, the electric band stuff, I was telling someone the other day, you know, when I heard him play the Mini Moog, I really wanted to play the Mini Moog. And I learned it, and I worked on it, and I played it. And then I heard a tape of it back, and I was like, I can't play this thing. It's not for me. So part of being an artist is knowing, no matter how much you love something, is it you or not?
Right.
And whether it's you or not is different than whether you like it. So
Well said.
That's a real dilemma. I'm really good at things that I don't like as much, which you know, it's not worth that conversation. But the Chick Corea thing is, it's a system. You know, it's the particular harmonic. You know, and it's got some McCoy in it. It's got, you know. But so you got to crawl inside that system.
Right.
But when you work with Herbie, he doesn't rehearse. They just make music from the get-go. There's no rehearsal. There's no need. You know, so one's not better than the other, really. One is a structure, and one is a structure that is comprised of freedom and no structure. And part of being a piano player is how far do you want to go from one to the other?
Right.
And my love of arranging, composing that you've remarked on, yeah, you build a structure and you bring it in. That's challenging because your guys have to be rehearsed.
Right.
And it's gotta be tight. And if you make a mistake, it can derail it. But when you come in with a Herbie Hancock kind of structure, everything is okay.
Right.
And, you know, I heard Herbie and Wayne at the Hollywood Bowl a few years ago, and that's what it was. And I do think that can be amazing, and it can not always work.
Right.
With Chick, it's always going to work, certainly, to a certain extent, it's going to work well because the tunes are there, and the structure is there, and, yeah, Weckl plays for a while, and John plays for a while, and then you know, it's more structured, you know. And Miles Davis vacillated in his life between whether he wanted that type of structure and whether he wanted no structure. You know, he started out wanting some structure, like those albums, Cooking, Steaming, Working, and Relaxing. You know, Coltrane is you know, he plays a certain way for a certain length. There's intros, there's outros. They're not really written out, but this is what we do. And, you know, you remember this, you know, block chords ready, block chords. He was scripting it. But then when he got to the second quintet with Tony, Ron, and Herbie and Wayne, it wasn't like that.
Right.
It was whatever. And those guys actually said, we are now going to go against Miles. We are going to do everything he doesn't want us to do. And then Miles evidently said something to me like, that's what I'm talking about. Why didn't you do that before? and so what's great about Herbie and, of course, Wayne, which makes it challenging sometimes to talk to him, is that yes and no can be the same thing, right? Yes or no, yes and no. Play inside, play outside. Okay.
Right.
It's very Buddhist. It's very Buddhist.
Yeah. Both of them, yeah.
Yeah. So within that, there is a certain unlimited growth. And as I get older, I don't want to give up writing music. I love writing music, but I'm trying
please
now
don't.
sometimes. Well, thank you. Sometimes I want to go to gigs and I don't want to read any music.
Right.
Like I'm
Likewise.
trying now to not have any music on the bandstand for me.
Right.
Because even Chick, very often there's no music on the bandstand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when you have no music on the bandstand, you're listening more to the other guys. You're more involved in the music in a certain way.
Yep.
And, it's like when I worked in Ohio, we had Woody Shaw and Freddie Hubbard come in, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to play all our music."
Mm-hmm.
And then Joe Henderson would be like, "Yeah, we're not going to. No, we're just going to hit." And then he was funny. He came onto the bandstand, and he would just stroke his beard and contemplate like it was the most profound subject. And he would say, "You know what a nice tune is?" And we're like, "Yeah." He says that tune, and he would think some more, and he'd go, "All the things you are." And we're like, "Sure, okay, all the things you are," and it was ridiculous. Right?
Yeah.
Then he'd say after that, "There's another tune I've been thinking about." He would think some more, and he'd go, "How about On Green Dolphin?" Joe. Second set, he said, "Why don't we do something I've recorded?" And we're like, yeah. And he says, "You know that tune, Blue Bossa?" Finally, by the second night, he said, let's do one of mine, things I've written." We're like,
Yeah.
Can't wait. He said, "You know that tune I did on page 1, Recordame?" And that was Joe Henderson. That was great. And I met him afterwards. I saw him in New York, and he couldn't have been nicer. And it was just,
That's the feeling I get when I listen to that 4 record with Wynton Kelly, Jimmy Cobb. And they're just playing tunes. It's Autumn Leaves, Green Dolphin Street, just playing tunes. And it's so killing. And, these guys can do anything. And I love that. I mean, you're making a great point. And it's nice, I think, for all of us musicians who are tuning in, and maybe younger people too, to know that this is, to read music, yes, we do need to do that. But the quicker we get off the page, the more we get into the music and listen. And even on tunes we take for granted that we have explored everything that we have. No, not the case. There's always treasure to be uncovered.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Bill, the Tom Meek is also watching with us.
Hi, Tom. How are you?
And he was wondering if you could talk a little bit about playing in the Buddy Rich Band together with Dave and Buddy, and why don't we show just a little bit of 1 O'Clock Jump that you shared with us. So
there's also a trio version that I think I might have sent over of All Blues, and that has some Dave Carpenter in it. It's a really
okay.
Whatever.
Okay, so I have 1 O'Clock Jump here ready to go, because that also is a nice feature for you, and it also is your arrangement. So I'm just going to share that.
Great.
Here we go. 1 O'Clock Jump with the Buddy Rich Big Band, featuring Bill Cunliffe and his arrangement as well of 1 O'Clock Jump. Here we go. gonna cut it off over there because
Goes on. Yeah, that sounds great. So swinging.
yeah,
Wow.
it's a really swinging arrangement, and obviously the band swings really hard. That was Mike Davis also shortly on the trombone solo. But Bill, can you dive a little bit into the relationship that you had musically within the rhythm section with Buddy and Dave, and if Buddy had certain ideas about, like how you should comp, or did he say like you do whatever you want to do? What was his thing?
Well, that's a great question. I'm going to move the mic up here so you can hear it a little better. First of all, it was, Buddy had very specific ideas, and a lot of, he's one of those brilliant musicians who had absolutely no training in music, but brilliant nevertheless. I think Sinatra was like that. I mean, he really couldn't read music or anything, but, we actually played behind Sinatra, so I did maybe 50 gigs with Frank.
Whoa,
And,
okay.
Frank knew everything. He's like, oh, the oboes are supposed to come in here, the clarinet's supposed to come. He knew everything, but he couldn't read any music. And Buddy was very much like that too. So he liked, I learned how to comp in a way that Buddy liked. And basically when the whole band is playing, when a big band is playing, there's no need for the piano player to throw a lot of stuff in there.
Right.
I would just be there playing along. He'd look at me and I would hear, ah! Like an alligator.
Yeah.
So I realized, okay, I won't play here. And he liked comping during the solos. And I was very lucky because Buddy loved Dave. Loved Dave. And because he loved Dave, we got to play trio almost every night. And that was really fun.
Wow.
Because Buddy as a trio piano player was magnificent. Now you had to kind of ease him along a little bit. Like we were doing, the first night he goes, hey, he didn't call me Bill or Cunliffe. Initially he called me Piano. He goes, Piano, we'll do a trio number, something kind of hip, not too out, but something kind of hip. I'm like, okay. Well, Dave and I, we played maybe half an hour during sound check before every gig. And I thought, wow, Old Devil Moon. Because I had heard Tommy Flanagan's arrangement of it on the Harold Arlen songbook. He plays brushes. It feels so great. He played with Bud Powell. He played with Tatum. He played with Basie. So Buddy knows how to play with a piano player. So I thought, well, we'll just do that. So in the middle of the first chorus of mine, Buddy started looking around, and a furrow started to creep on his brow, and I'm like, oh no, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, he starts getting the Buddy face, and he goes, "Take it out now!" And so I made up an ending, He goes, "Take him out! What's the matter with you?" Then he obviously I get on the bus and it's hell to pay, and he goes, "What the hell's the matter with you? A stupid tune. Why don't you learn some songs with 32 bars in them?" He was lost. So I said, okay, I got it. Okay. So I think I did maybe Green Dolphin Street the next night, and then he goes a few weeks later. He goes something 3/4, all blues, great, right? So we were off then. Then it was great. He would even let me play like a 3-minute thing by myself sometimes. So because Dave played so well and not only was so strong, but he played exactly how Buddy needed him to play for it to work. That's really what it came down to. And Dave was, one of the greatest musicians I've ever worked with. And because Buddy loved Dave, he loved me, and it was totally cool. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't explosions. There was yelling. There were moments that weren't ideal. But in general, it was pretty good. And I got to write a lot of music for him. He liked guys to bring in charts because he wanted to develop an original body of music. And one of the things I loved about Buddy when I first came in was that he'd play all this great kind of swing music, but then, he had a way of playing rock and roll that was, I call it rock and roll because it was a little more, it wasn't boom, ding, boom, boom, ding. It was more a boop, doo, back, boop, doo, ding, da, boop, day, boop, doo, da. It was a little more jazzy. And I actually really liked it. And Bob Mintzer had been on the band before me.
Right.
And Bob had like 6 or 7 charts in the book, and they were all just fantastic. And so we played those almost every night, at least one of them. And I heard Bob Mintzer's band in New York in '84 when I was kind of quasi living there, staying at the Hotel Paramount. And it was, I kind of felt like, he made Buddy play great. He really did, because the thing with to make a Buddy chart work, there's got to be a place in there where he gets to play the melody. Like, there's a tune that he had called Channel 1 Suite, which is sort of like television music, but a little hipper.
Yeah.
So it starts out like... It's like TV chase scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Mustang in the street.
Mannix.
Right, exactly. But there's a place in the middle of it. And Buddy gets to direct it. Boom, 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 boom. And then Steve Marcus plays for a while. And then the band goes...
Yeah, exactly.
So it's got that sense of drama that a lot of music in jazz doesn't have. It's got a beginning and a middle and an ending, and it's a show.
Yeah.
Buddy knew how to put on a show, and it was a great show.
Wow,
and at the end of it, he'd come out in his bathrobe. That's why that 1 o'clock jump, he was in his bathrobe.
He was in his bathrobe.
He was already done.
Yeah.
But the people kept applauding, and they made him come back. So he was like, "Oh, what the hell?" And he said at the beginning of that tape, "You guys don't mind if I wear this, do you?"
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So it was a show, but it was a show in a good way because Buddy was a show business guy.
Yeah,
he was a great jazz musician, but he was a show business guy, and that's not easy to do. Wynton Marsalis is like that. Christian McBride is like that. There's not too many guys that can really pull off the showbiz thing,
right?
And be a great jazz musician. Cal Basie did it. Thad Jones did it. It's not easy to do.
Yeah.
Who else did it? Frank Sinatra did it. It's not for everybody. A lot of people that want to do it, but don't pull it off the way they did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jeff Hamilton is also with us, and he said Shakespeare.
He's a very exciting person to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's actually the last guy I saw at Jilly's in Dayton, because it was him and Ray Brown and Gene Harris. And that trio was so exciting. And I went up to him and I was like, "Hey Jeff, I'm going to move out to LA. I'm a piano player." And he says, "Oh yeah, okay." And I said, "Can I give you a call?" He said, "Okay." And I did, and that's part of how I formed that relationship with the Clayton Hamilton Band.
Yeah.
You know, as a piano player, but in particular, as special also as a writer, that was such a great education because John Clayton really is one of my favorite big band arrangers and composers because he's old school, but he can also come out with some veiled voicings that are very like Brookmeyer and Thad and almost Maria Schneider like, you know, these foggy, beautiful textures. And I love playing that band, you know, just hearing those charts.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't we show something from your writing? Because you sent also a link of your own big band playing live. You brought out not too long ago a big band record that's called Bacchanalia. A beautiful, beautiful record with an amazing band with you know, some of the best cats from the LA scene. And why don't we take a look at your Prokofiev third piano concerto for just
You
a
don't have
couple
to play the
minutes.
whole thing. It's pretty long.
It's pretty long. I'm just gonna play like about 4 minutes or so. But I was actually we played that piece actually at USC when you conducted the big band, and it was a really great piece to play. So let's just take a look and a listen and check it out with everybody. Prokofiev's third piano concerto. Here we go. excerpt from Prokofiev. Beautiful. It brings back a couple good memories of playing that piece myself. Actually, the question that I was thinking of related to both 1 O'Clock Jump and this, and also the other iconic pieces that you've arranged yourself. You made your own version of Blues and Abstract Truth from Oliver Nelson. You also made this whole piece of the Goldberg contraptions. You call it Goldberg contraptions. What is it? And that's so interesting because all of those melodies and pieces are like super identifiable and super famous. Everybody knows 1 O'Clock Jump from the Basie Band, but you were able with Buddy's band to make it your own thing. You made these like really cool rhythmic syncopated rhythms on top of each other, and goofing around a little bit with voicings and all of that. So my question is, how did you find, or how do you find a balance of putting your own voice to a piece like that, but staying true also to the original piece?
Well, that's a great question, Kevin. With the Buddy Rich thing, it was another great story. He by this time, after about 6 months of the band, he now called me by my last name. So he says, Cunliffe, get up here. So I get up there, and of course there's nowhere to sit, so I'm like perched gingerly with my butt on one of the armrests of the other seat. And he goes, I hear you right, he said with a bit of challenging disdain. And I said, yes, buddy, I do. He says, 1 O'Clock Jump, Count Basie. Get the, orchestrate the piano solo from the 1932 recording. Then use the backgrounds from the 1950s recording with suites. You got those, right? I've got a Walkman and 20 cassettes on the bus, and I hesitated for a minute, and he exploded in rage. God damn it! You better find them. You better learn Basie better than you know yourself. Get out of here right now. And actually, it was kind of fortuitous because I was familiar with a man named Jeff Tyzik. I played in his band in Rochester. Jeff, a trumpet player and arranger who worked with Doc Severinson, became one of the great pops conductors in America. He conducts all over the country and I think all over the world. And he had done a version of In the Mood. And he had hipped it up a little bit, but it was still in the mood. And I'm like, wow, that's the template. So I kind of started with, I want to go out, but I didn't want to go so far out. It was a real delicate balance, it's a gig. So so that's how that, and Buddy loved it. I mean, he played it, most nights until the band ended. The other things are quite a bit different. There's a lot of different reasons. I like arranging partially because I don't have to worry. I don't have to think of an idea. I'm just here, and I've got the music, and I hear it, and then I just start to mess with it, and it just kind of happens. It comes real easy to me to arrange. The Blues and the Abstract Truth Take Two came because there was a fellow named Paul Lyons who booked a jazz series in Pasadena, and he called me, and he would call me, and he would have these kind of epiphanies. Bill, Blues and the Abstract Truth, Oliver Nelson. Can you do it? I want in a month. And I said, sure. But I didn't have the music, and I didn't want to buy the music, so I just wrote some different charts. And it wasn't that hard to do. As a pianist, you just kind of, I got one coming up, though, now I'm sweating over. There's a fellow in New Zealand named Roger Fox. Some of you might know him. Great trombone player, band leader in New Zealand. One of the few big bands that has gone on. And he's like, Bill, I want Tannhäuser by Wagner.
Wow.
A jazz version of it.
Oh, man.
So,
well, if anyone can do it, you can, Bill.
Yeah.
I've been kind of.
Wow.
You know what though? I found a great version of it, but I don't think I can do it. A pianist, a great pianist named Don Lambert, who died in the 50s.
Oh, he played with Sarah Vaughan some.
He might have. He's
Yeah.
like. He does the whole thing in like an up-tempo. I apologize for my butchering.
Oh, no, not at all. That was great.
No. But
Don Lambert has a version.
yeah,
Wow.
just a brilliant stride piano player.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I haven't figured out my way out of this problem. I just have no idea what I'm
I'm
gonna
sure
do.
you will.
Well, you know.
Wow, but then you write something like overture, the overture, waltz, and rondo, for Temple. That's just, to me, is just absolute brilliance. You're talking about arranging. I mean, just to take it on a tangent really quick, because I know you were inspired maybe from, Mozart on that, but I'm listening to it and I hear like some Charles Ives, I hear some Samuel Barber. Tell me a little bit about. Tell us just. We're going long here, but this is just so much fun. But how do you? That's new music.
That was completely a composition.
Yeah. So where does that come from? Where's the inspiration? I mean, Terrell Stafford sounds so amazing on that piece with you, and you're just playing. It's just, if anyone hasn't heard that, check it out. It's like a 34-minute piece, but it's really brilliant. So tell us about like how you structure or come up with an idea for such a long, like a large ensemble length piece like that.
Well, that one was new wine in old bottles. It's fairly classical in its structure.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, overture, waltz, and rondo. The structure is coming from Mozart. Sonata, almost sonata form in the beginning. The last movement is a rondo. The middle movement is kind of a large ABA, and the melodic material it's sort of. Actually the third movement, right? So it's a little bit like the piece of Mozart, bum, bum, bum.
Eine kleine?
Right. So,
Yeah.
I actually heard Tamir Handelman play something on the radio, and this is a fun thing to do. You'll hear a second or two of something you like, then you immediately turn it off. Then you start to write what you think it might have been.
Mm.
And what did Tamir play? He played something like it was something like it was some kind of Brazilian thing. I wrote a whole concerto on that, a tuba concerto. So. It's only 5 notes, so Tamir doesn't get any of the writer's credit for it. But I never told him that. I got to tell him. He he's one of my piano players that I
Brilliant.
love.
Absolutely.
And
Me
he's got
too.
a great Brazilian kind of a sound. He really gets that. And
that's the tuba concerto with Jim Self that you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll just get a second or two of something, and I'll try to run with that.
Yeah.
But I have trouble coming up with ideas. I really do. And especially during this pandemic and in the last few years being involved in education, it's been harder and harder. It's I'm very soon going to find a way out of this. Story to be continued.
Amazing.
Well, but I mean, it's so amazing you've brought out like really original ideas, like the Bacchanalia, the big band record, the imagination, or I should say, exactly. There you go. And I'm the European, and I can't pronounce it. The Latin American type of music, like the blues and the abstract truth, and trio stuff, sextet stuff, but it's all so very original what you do, which is just insane how prolific you are, not only with jazz music but also with large ensemble stuff and with classical music for sure.
Well, every different ensemble, every different soloist provides a challenge, and I'm a little more interactive. I like someone to say, "I'd like you to do something," rather than I've tried to come up with music on my own, and I can do it. But for me, it's better to interact.
Yeah.
And an arrangement is an interaction. It's an interaction with a piece of music that's already been written.
Right.
As a pianist, I think playing piano trio is, of course, the most fun. But what I love about it is the interaction.
Yeah.
So what is the premise basically behind your latest release with John Patitucci and Vinnie Colaiuta?
Well, that was an interesting one because I was working with a singer, a very good singer named Andy James. We spent about 2 years. We did about 2 or 3 records, big horns and strings, really kind of large things. But the producer brought Vinny and John together, and he said, "Bill, we've got about five hours here free. Do you want to do something tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And then I thought, well, I don't want to prepare. I want to just blow. I just want to do a blowing record because I've never done one of those. So I brought in one tune, The One Step by Chick Corea, which I didn't know that well. But those guys, of course, they played with Chick, so they knew it. Then the rest of it, everything was off the cuff. We just kind of made the record in 5 hours.
Wow.
And it was really fun to do. They're both real nice and real easy to work with, and it was at Capitol, and there was. I think the only downside of it for me was my own psychological turmoil, which I've kind of learned to accept that it will always kind of be there, and I kind of accept it. That's all right. If I'm, you have to play through it.
Right.
These guys are here. This situation is here. You have to accept the challenge that's before you, and try to figure out a way to have the music flow from you rather than be triggered by outside forces. I think it's a combination of both.
Right. That's a beautiful thing to say.
You picked some great tunes for that record, Bill, that I just love. Like Anna Maria, the Wayne Shorter tune, is one of my favorites. I know. I learned it from Cecilia Coleman. She loved it so much, and she loved Kenny Kirkland's version of it. Which just melts me. Of course, I love the Native Dancer original, but the way Kenny did it with the percussion, and then I saw you recorded it on this new one. I was like, oh man, that's such a good tune. And it's like, yeah. So I just love that you picked tunes, Seven Step to Heaven, and just tunes that like you could get into quick. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you guys are really tight, and obviously ridiculous musicianship. So that helps.
It helps that we weren't reading.
Right.
It's like
they're coming back to that.
Yeah. We were all just like kind of
playing
together, which is really kind of fun.
Yeah.
That's part of why we do this, is to connect with people. And boy, I really miss it. Wow, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like we're coming out from under. So
yeah, same.
I think it's better times ahead. I got to be optimistic.
Yeah, I feel the same way, definitely. Yeah.
Can't wait to hear you guys play. I don't know where that's going to be, but put me on all your mailing lists, and I don't go on Facebook all the time because I will get sucked in, and I don't really want to. So I go in every couple days for about 10 minutes and just check the mail.
Yeah.
See who's there. And that's fun,
Yeah.
So that's how it is. Josh, what are you working on next, or is it just building time of stuff? What are you doing?
I have a Live at Blue Whale record coming out. It is 4 long tracks that were recorded in 2 separate sessions, 2018 and 2019. A little, homage to our recently departed beautiful Blue Whale, which we're all very sad that is no longer, but lots of great memories. So I'm working on that right now. I was arranging a few projects. I just scored a short film. I'm trying to get into some more film scoring, Bill, because I love it. And jazz is one piece to me of the musical pie, and I want to do a lot of different things because I just love all different types of music. So trying to work into that scene a little bit. It's a little tough, but
you'll find your voice. You already have something to say that you've already said in your music. And
well, thanks.
I think there's definitely a place You know, I think the only thing is you have to be kind of good at the technology, at least good enough.
Right.
And what are you working on? What software are you using?
Logic Pro.
Good.
Yeah.
We'll
That's
have to
one
talk
thing.
about it, because I'm messing with it because I used it a bit for my students at Fullerton this
Yeah.
year, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I've gotten pretty comfortable. I mean, that's one thing the pandemic has afforded is getting better with learning the gear. Got some better mics, so I could do tracks for the piano instead of going to Tally Sherwood's place every time I want to do something. I'm like, I got to do it from home.
Well, you have a nice piano at home. So what is that
It's the Yamaha S400B, one of the hand belt ones. It's really nice. Yeah, it's the same one that they had, or the same model they had at the Maybach recital hall. Those two pianos.
That's a really good sounding series.
Oh, I love that series.
Yeah.
Man, do you have some highlights, favorites from that Maybach series?
Oh yeah. Oh, there's so many. Gee whiz. Dave McKenna.
Dave McKenna's is great.
Kenny Barron.
The Hank Jones one.
Hank Jones. Yeah.
Kenny.
Joanne Burkeen.
Woof.
A million of them.
They were selling one of those pianos, Bill, and I got word. I'm like, because my text said, "Oh, they're selling one. You should go up and see it." And I went and saw one of them, and it was the not good one. The guy's like, "I'm keeping the good one. Do you want this one?" And I ended up not getting it. But Hussein Jifri, you know Hussein? He sold me this piano, and this was. It was right. He works at Vibrato. He's a great bassist and wonderful cat. And this piano before Hussein belonged to someone you might know who was a teacher and studio player on the scene here in LA, Joyce Collins.
Sure.
This was her piano.
Wow.
Yeah. I never got to meet her, but I've heard lots about her.
Yeah, I think I met her briefly when I got here.
Yeah.
She's a wonderful piano player.
Yeah. From what I've heard. Yeah.
Well,
Where are we
Josh,
going?
I can't wait to hear you live. I can't
Oh
wait to hear
man,
you.
thank you. Likewise. I had so many great memories of going to see you at Steamers in Fullerton. That was really where I got to check you out probably the most in different groups. And then I also saw you at Spaghettini before they had the stage. You would play there with Dave Hawker and maybe Carp, maybe Dave Carpenter.
Sure, that's a possibility.
Mid-late 90s, and I was just always blown away. So I can't wait to get to see you play live again, Bill.
Feels mutual.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man.
Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. Same here. Yeah. Yeah.
Kevin, what's your next project? Who are you playing with?
The next thing that's on the calendar is actually a live stream performance that is hosted by the Orange County Union. So next week, Josh and me are actually on that. That's not next week, but we're performing June 2nd at the series Laguna Live with a young saxophone player buddy of mine, Jason Fabus. We'll play his some of his originals and some tunes. I'm really trying to find a new venue for the big band where we can actually perform the West Coast stuff that me and Josh have been collaborating on from this podcast. I've been acquiring a lot of like different kinds of repertoires, and there have been guests on the show who would love to have their music being performed and all of that. So there's enough stuff to make like a whole big band tribute series from just West Coast musicians and West Coast music. So I'm working on that of finding a venue for that and putting something like that together. And the main thing that is on my schedule right now is to also be in the first preparation stages for a 2-month tour of the music of Frank Sinatra that I'll be performing back home in Holland. It's a 2-month theater tour that I'll be doing with my Dutch big band over there. So
wow.
Yeah. That's going to be really, really cool. Yeah.
Do you have a singer, or is it going to be instrumental?
There's going to be a singer. We're doing this with a popular artist from the Netherlands to bring the music of Sinatra also to a younger audience, to teens and people in their early 20s and all of that stuff. But our band, the band is all are all Dutch musicians, but the arrangements will be made here by a couple guys here from LA. So we're going to make sure that the music is going to be really great, and that, you know, like the show is going to be a great jazz show, but also very entertaining. What you just said, jazz has to be entertaining. So we're working on making it entertaining for a variety of different audiences.
Yeah, you know, the only reason I played with Sinatra was that he had one tune that he was doing called "L.A. Is My Lady."
Oh yeah,
yeah, I remember, yeah.
There's a Fender Rhodes part on it.
Ah.
And I was going to actually play that part on the record, but they got Quincy Jones and his crew to do it. But because they had electric and acoustic piano on that, Joe Parnella, who was the music director, needed someone to play the electric piano because he couldn't do both.
Right.
So he said, well, we got that kid from Buddy's band. We'll just have him do it. So I got to hear Frank so much, and he was... he had the best book. He had the best charts of any singer alive. So
yeah, that's absolutely
it's going to
true.
be great. I can't wait to see it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be some kind of like video recording of it, but I'm very stoked about it, and I'm very stoked to just notice and to see that things are coming back to normal again. So yeah, we're working on a couple of stuff that in a couple months will be happening. So that's super cool. Yeah. Josh, should we get Tom?
Yeah, I think he's possibly waiting to give us a little. Tom Meek from LAJazz.com's going to join us momentarily, give us a little update on the LA jazz scene as some venues start to open. It's the first time we've had him on. So Tom, if you're there, can pop on. But Bill, while we're waiting, I just any words of wisdom for particularly maybe young musicians, young composers that might be watching right now, that you want to share? I mean, you've shared already so much, but any final thoughts? I mean, we could easily do part 2 with you. There's just so much music and things we want to talk to you about. But anything that strikes you right now, you want to share?
Well, something that I didn't always do in my life, and I would have more. Something Chick Corea said, and I'm paraphrasing now. He says, you know, if you do what you want, you're going to make more money than if you do what other people want you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems paradoxical, but it's actually true, because you're going to do it way better. So do what you want. And, you know, if you have to get a day gig, if the bills come due, do that, but do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let the realities as you perceive them govern what you do more than a small percentage of what your life is.
Yeah.
You have to do things you want to do.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, and that's, I think that's more important now than ever. Like that we're coming out of this pandemic, that we really are going for the things that we would like to do, that we want to do.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for being with us, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to bring on Tom just for a minute, or 10 minutes maybe. But if you can stay if you'd like, or you can split. But man, it's just been a joy to talk with you and listen to a little bit of the music.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
You're welcome.
And the compliments.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. So here's Tom Meek, and he's going to fill us in on the jazz scene update. Yeah. Hey, Tom.
Howdy.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm going to have to, I got to watch my lighting here because I got something coming through a side window.
Yeah,
at
you're okay.
7,000 feet.
Where are you, Tom, in a cabin in the woods? Where are you?
Yeah, I am. I'm actually 7,000 feet in the Sierras right now.
Nice.
Wow.
Cool.
That's super cool. Yeah.
I'm jealous.
I'm glad that the connection is also really good out there.
It's good.
But you're a computer guy, so you know that should be very, very good. That's right. So Tom, thanks so much for for being on the show. That was also a super cool idea of you mentioning, an update about what's going to happen, because we're slowly opening up. The jazz scene is slowly opening up, so we're all ears of what you have to say about what's going down and what's going to happen very soon.
Well, the good thing is that there is we're beginning to see some venues open up. With the Potato is doing either 3 or 4 nights a week, depending on what's going on with their schedule. I stopped in and talked to Justin Randy the other day, and Justin, he's not sure he's going to go back to 7 nights a week yet, but that's a start, and he's doing limited seating in terms of indoor, plus he's added an outdoor patio space, and that's the oldest venue in LA. So there's that. You mentioned, unfortunately, Josh did the closing of the Blue Whale, and that hurts a lot. I was at Catalina about a week ago for a videotaping of a show, and I talked to Manny there. They're really targeting the reopening of California as a whole around the 15th of June. That's supposed to be the big date, and so far Governor Newsom's office is holding to that date. And hopefully we'll see. I think you're going to run into, some issues even after all the formal restrictions are lifted. You're going to continue to see how to handle social distancing, because I think California is more aware of and in tune with that than some other parts of the country. But you've also got some new places opening them up. We'll see how they go forward. But I know, Josh, you're going to be playing with a trio in a week at Second Home in Hollywood, which is a Sam First sponsored show. I haven't heard anything from Paul and Dave at Sam First yet as to what their thinking is in terms of reopening the venue.
Yeah, they actually just, I was there last week doing a live stream, Tom, and they mentioned that this week they're going to be starting to reopen to a very limited capacity, under 20 people in the room, and they'll do 2 sets, so they'll turn the room, which is great. I mean, so it's slowly, I think it's just the weekend for now. I'm not sure which night specifically. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. That's what the Potato is doing with their indoor seating, is also limited.
Right.
But Orange County is where there continue to be more things happening on a more consistent basis than any place else. You've got the Drake in Laguna Beach, which is a newer venue that's programming jazz 7 nights a week. Although not every night, particularly on the weekends, is jazz. They also do some blues and occasionally some pop. I saw John McClure was on this feed earlier. He's been doing many gigs, as you know, Josh, for a very long time.
John and
down
Joe.
in Orange County.
Absolutely.
And he's doing some things at the Bayside Restaurant, which is was a long time place where Ron Kobayashi, the Orange County pianist, has kind of had a residency forever.
Right.
And he's got Carol Welsman running against you next Tuesday.
Oh, great, Carol.
I'm sure there's going to be room for both. But one of the things that I've been very encouraged to see is the venues that are reopening
Hi.
Here comes Lois.
Hey, Lois.
The venues that are open are selling out. All those outdoor shows at Second Home have been selling out. The Baked Potato has been selling out 2 sets almost every night, plus the patio. And you're going to see more venues. Once we get to the 15th of June, we're going to see more venues open. The one other place that has closed, unfortunately, that I'm aware of permanently is Rockwell Table and Stage in Los Feliz,
Oh, wow.
which
I
was
didn't know
the
that.
longtime home of Jeff Goldblum. I mean, he had a almost 20-year residency in there.
Yeah.
And
What a shame.
I talked to their owners about a week ago. I had heard actually from Manny at Catalina they might be closed, and they confirmed they had.
Oh.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But I think you're going to, once we get to the 15th of June, you'll see more venues open. We'll see some new venues open. The big need right now is a space to really take the place that Blue Whale had.
Absolutely.
That was a really important space in LA, particularly for younger musicians, and it's very difficult to replace. And hopefully somebody's going to be able to step up, but LA needs to get its commercial rents down before, venues are viable.
Right.
I was aware several years ago that a major venue in New York, one of the top 5 jazz venues in New York, they were looking to open an LA-based version of what they do. And they made 5 or 6 trips out here over the course of 5 or 6 months. They couldn't figure out a way to make it work commercially with rents being as high as they were. And these are people who knew what they were doing, were very experienced, who've been doing it in New York for a very long time. And that's a big issue for anybody looking to open a venue. Is that was one of the things that really affected June, and he and I discussed that on multiple occasions. And, Catalina has not had an easy road in her space in Hollywood either.
Yeah.
So, we have to kind of cross fingers and hope that some deep-pocketed people are able to come in and get some venues going that have the ability to stay with it for a while and build a base.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Orange County, you mentioned Bayside, and that was great. I got to play there last summer, Tom, with Anthony Wilson and the band. And then the other venue I played at quite a bit was Campus Jacks, which is right next to the airport. So you deal with the planes taking off for the first hour or so, and then it gets a little quiet after that.
I know about it, and it's funny when you say that.
Yeah.
I know things are picking up. This is a scary warning for musicians out there. Every Sunday, as I think Josh knows, I go through literally every gig that I can find, and I have a whole system that I do that when I put out the About Now column on Mondays. That's linkable through lajazz.com, and then there's a quick calendar that has every gig by date, time, venue, location, and if it's a live stream, it's linked.
Yeah.
But now and then, and this is the first time it's happened since we've begun to come back online, so to speak, in terms of gigs, I saw a conflict in terms of, wait a minute, this person is supposed to be on a gig at Campus Jacks or another venue on one night, and they're also supposed to be on a gig at another venue that same night. And, I try to flag that if I have to because I've seen a train wreck where that people don't figure that out until 2 hours before a gig, and then it's a madhouse. Usually I'll reach out to that musician directly. This case, I didn't have that musician's contact information readily available, and I didn't want to call them on a Sunday morning. I didn't have their email.
Yeah.
So I knew both the leaders. And I sent a note to one of the leaders and went, just be aware, there's a little problem here with your gig this week. And it was like, and within 1 minute, and it's somebody on Facebook I reached out to, they got back to me, what? Really? I need to fix this. And I saw today that other gig had been subbed. So,
Even in the time of COVID, double bookings can happen.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So,
That's nice. You caught that.
Well, I do that about 4 times a year normally.
Yeah.
And I want to keep everybody, the main reason that lajazz.com and my column exists is to try to help keep venues open and musicians employed and people able to hear the great music that is available pretty much 365 days a year in LA. And that's been kind of my mantra, as it were, for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've been doing the About and Out column for this year is the 14th year. And I was doing private lists and emails before that for years.
Yeah.
But I've just always had the opinion, because people kept saying to me, wow, you mean there's really great music in LA? I said, yeah, every night. Because that was even before I moved here, I was traveling here. And I had those lists, musicians saw those lists, they bugged me into doing a mailer, and then that evolved into the column, and then eventually, lajazz.com and taking that over. But I'm trying to keep everybody employed that I can, and keep venues open, and keep people's ears filled with all the great music that's available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, everybody here knows that live music is something that's really special and unique. And if you get an understanding of it, particularly an understanding of what the difference is when you hear world-class musicians like Bill, and I was listening to Bill talk about Buddy Rich, and I'm sure I saw Bill with Buddy Rich, and I knew Dave Carpenter well before he passed. He and I developed a friendship, and Bill mentioned Jilly's in Dayton, a club that was there. And last time I was there, I saw Jimmy Cobb there. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy Cobb was the first drummer that reminded me of my father, who was a great swing era drummer.
That's
who played in the early 40s before he got drafted and went and fought in Europe. So, all those things, there are all those memories just listening to Bill. I was getting triggered with all these different memories, and those were all related to live shows where those things developed. And I want people to be able to get back out and enjoy themselves and hear the great music that all of the gentlemen on this particular Zoom create on a regular basis.
Thank you,
Tom.
Tom.
I just want to thank you for that. I got to go, but Tomic, lajazz.com.
That's it.
I'm going to be checking that out because we're coming back. So, Tom,
yeah.
And thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Good luck with everything.
You're the best.
Thank you so much.
We love you. Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Yeah. And
thanks,
Tom,
guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all you're doing and your continued efforts over the many years, Tom, of getting the word out. It's an invaluable resource. I saw Joel Taylor's on, and it says, appreciate you, Tom. So we appreciate what you do for the community to help all of us.
Yes,
thank
very
you
much.
So much. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you for the great update. And I'm sure we'll talk to you sometime soon again.
Yeah, we'll have you back on for sure. Thank you. And best to Lois.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
And for everybody out there, our viewers and our listeners, thank you guys for joining us again. Thanks to our special guest, Bill Cunliffe. Thanks to my co-host, Josh Nelson. I'm Kevin Van den Elzen, and next month we're going to be back with 3 shows, and they're going to be really, really, really great shows. We're going to announce at the beginning, probably later this month, what those shows will be, but we have some really, really great things in store for you. So keep yourself up to date with liking our West Coast Jazz Hour Facebook page. That's where we post stuff, or our personal pages. And we'll see you guys very soon again, next month in June.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you in June. Thanks.
Alrighty.